Hi, I'm Melissa Matinzi. Welcome to the Plymouth Planning Board candidate interview. I want to take a moment to thank our candidate for participating in this interview and collaborating with PAC TV to bring this informational programming to residents and voters this election season. Let me explain the format. Today, Birgitta Kuehn will be interviewed. Birgitta will have 2 minutes to introduce herself, speak about her background, qualifications, and why she's running for office. I'll then ask a series of questions related to state and local issues. Birgitta will be hearing the questions for the first time during this forum, and she'll have 2 minutes to answer the questions. After the questions, she'll have 2 minutes for closing remarks. The 2-minute time frame will be shown on her screen. So let's get started with the opening statement. And Birgitta, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Melissa, and hello, Plymouth voters. For those who don't yet know me, I wasn't born in Plymouth, but I've shown my love and commitment to our one-of-a-kind town through volunteer activities. I participate in a local health clinic. I volunteered here at PAC TV. I'm a town meeting member and the former chair of the Board of Health. For the past 2 years, I've been the alternate on the planning board, making me the only experienced candidate. We are just beginning to understand the long-term impact that this past year has had on Plymouth's economy, schools, and infrastructure. Plymouth is a town that celebrates its historic past and now attracts visitors to its open space in droves to escape urban congestion. We are beginning to see a post-pandemic housing boom. Residents tell me they want a common sense approach to grow smarter, to conserve better, to ensure a vibrant future that we can all share. Growing smarter means protecting historic resources, reducing environmental impacts, and encouraging greater density in developed areas, reducing traffic congestion and improving our roads. Conserve better addresses the imbalance between open space and development. A recent precedent-setting decision by the Planning Board to break covenants in areas of old forests and traditional Plymouth will only delay the inevitable, the funding of town services through higher residential and commercial property taxes. All of this is in the master plan, the plan for our community that the state requires and the Planning Board controls. Planning effectively needs the experience I will bring to the board, along with my values of integrity and transparency. I'm asking for your vote, Birgitta Kuehn, Planning Board. Grow smarter, conserve better. It's just common sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Birgitta. We're now going to move on to our first question. How does the board balance the need for commercial growth, residential growth, and open space in our community? And you'll have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Melissa. As the alternate on the planning board, I have been balancing those questions for the past 2 years, along with my fellow colleagues on the board. But let me say that first and foremost, this town has a master plan that actually resolves those questions. It's the plan that addresses those questions. It's a plan that is required by the state, and it's required to have certain components in it. Land use, what you're talking commercial versus residential, those are zoned areas. It's required to have sections on natural resources, on housing, on open space. The Open Space Committee is a committee that reports to the Planning Board, along with the town meeting and the Select Board. The master plan has to have a section on historic and cultural resources, on economic development, and on transportation. So in many respects, the plan is there, and the Planning Board follows that plan. Now, it's not every day that it's at the table, and it would be my goal as a Planning Board member to make sure that that master plan, which is put together by boards and committees and residents, really importantly, residents of Plymouth, for our future and what our town looks like, that plan is at the table. That it is there for the use not only of the Planning Board, but for the public who participates in the Planning Board meetings, so that they understand that the plan that they put together is really the plan that we are implementing. Thank you.
Thank you, Birgitta. And we're going to move on to question number 2. How would you address the issue of the lack of affordable housing in the town? You have 2 minutes.
Affordable housing is a complex issue. The state is mandating that this state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, has more housing. There is a critical need for housing, and there is a critical need for housing that young families can afford to move into, and that elderly can afford to stay in or move down to. I'm not saying down, but I'm saying downsizing too. As you get older, maybe you want your kids to have your house, but then where do you go? And if where you're going is a much smaller space, but it actually costs more than what you're leaving, how do you actually afford that? So we have the state that puts an overlay onto the requirements of the planning board. So what are some of those? First of all, what the state says is that 10% of the housing in Plymouth needs to be affordable. But the burden that they put on us in the affordable is to say that, well, I'm not going to get into the complicated formulas, but they're using HUD numbers from Boston. So they're saying, well, Plymouth, you're really kind of like Boston. So the affordable home that we're going to let you build is really going to be unaffordable for most in Plymouth. And that is a burden, and it's something that has to be addressed. The town has to address this through the planning board, the select board, and town meeting. Secondarily, when we talk about affordable housing, it's really important to recognize certain aspects. It's called inclusionary housing because it should be included in our neighborhoods, that affordable housing should not be singled out. Oh, you live in affordable housing.
Birgitta, I'm sorry. The 2 minutes are up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. You can see I'm passionate about the issue.
It is an important issue. But now we're going to move on to the third question here. And that is, what is your vision for the town for the next 5 years? And again, you'll have 2 minutes for your answer.
There certainly is a lot of uncertainty in our town right now. And it's not uncertainty that we've created. It's uncertainty that's been created by the past year and a pandemic that we actually don't know the full extent of the impact. So this is what I'd like to focus on. Our master plan is started 20 years ago. No one could have predicted that we would have 2007 meltdown of our economy. Nobody could have predicted that we'd have a pandemic. But here we are. And actually, nobody could have predicted the extent to which we're looking at the impacts of sustainability and on global warming. So our master plan, we are starting to commission it now. This is the time. It'll take us about 2 years to do. It needs to have approved funding from town meeting, and everyone needs to be at the table, not just boards and committees that work in dark rooms in the back. And I heard somebody say, I worked on the last master plan, and what happened is I'm sitting there working on the master plan, and I can't hear anything because there's bulldozers outside my window. Well, maybe that influenced the master plan. Let's all get to the table. Let's understand that our future is our decision because our master plan is at the table. The other thing I wanted to say, I'm not a politician. I'm not really good at some of these types of meetings, but I am a very good strategic planner. For the past 10 years of my professional life, I built heart hospitals in cities across this country, which meant that I had to address the community and address their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Birgitta. And now we're going to move on to your closing remarks. And for your closing remarks, you will have 2 minutes.
What I would like to share with the voters in Plymouth is, as I stated, I'm not from Plymouth, but my husband is actually from this area. And we came here for his work and for my retirement. And I jumped in with both feet in a community that I absolutely love. I grew up in a community with a historic background. I know what it means to protect history in a town. And I want to say one thing that I learned growing up is the importance of community. As we continue to build housing, we don't build houses, we build neighborhoods. We build connections between families. We build connections with our community and with our community resources. It's really important when a developer stands in front of the planning committee and tells us how wide the driveways are going to be and how they're going to work with wastewater, and we ask them how they're going to get water. It's really important for me to understand that they know that they are building houses for people to improve quality of life, to improve the way people interact with their community and love to be here. We are growing, and it's important that we understand that every decision we make for growth has a trade-off for something that we actually hold dear. You can't build a house on a tree. You can't build a house on a road. You can't build an industrial complex in the middle of a forest without having a trade-off. Let's be smart. Let's grow smarter, conserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Birgitta, for participating in the interview. And we wish you the best of luck through your campaign and into the election. And for our viewers, thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in watching the replays of this interview, please visit our website, pactv.org/elections, for replay times and online viewing options, including PAC TV's on-demand and streaming service, PAC TV Prime. And please, make your choices heard by voting in the election on Saturday, May 15th. Thank you and good day.